Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best premium scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the re-release of the customizable show rods. It's a 1/32nd scale Lindberg model kit number HL136. These haven't been seen repopped for many years, and these customizable show rods are the Lucky Bucket and the Super Roadster in 1/32 scale. They are a level 2 kit because they require glue and paint, and you get about 50 parts for each model. And the Lucky Bucket is molded in orange, and the Super Roadster is molded in blue styrene. The kits also include chrome and clear pieces with a set of water slide decals and a cardboard display stand. The instructions are simple fold-out style, and these are basic kits molded with customizing in mind, as each model has 3 different configurations, and you could even swap parts to make it more unique. It's a simple and fun kit to build, and just like it was back in the day when it was released. When you're finished, overall dimensions are about 4 inches long, 1.5 inches wide, and 1.5 inches high. Here are the contents of this kit, and some people would call this an open box review. They take the parts out of the box one at a time and try to describe them if they can find the words. And unfortunately, that won't help you build the kit, will it? So here's my open box review in about 10 seconds. Now, we'll be using Model Master liquid cement for most of the construction, occasionally some super glue and white glue for clear parts. But as always, please pay attention to the manufacturer's guidelines to promote your own personal safety when using those. Here are the decals for this kit. As you can see, they're very colorful, and the registry is good. Now, I strongly suggest that you use some of the aftermarket setting solutions for these to make sure that the decals conform to the model's contours and stick to the body. After you've got them all in place, it's a good idea to give your model a spray of clear lacquer to seal those decals into place. These little roadsters are molded in color, and as such they wouldn't need to be painted. But when you fix flash and do some light sanding on them, there's still a chance it might show through the clear when you do that later. Or if you want to change colors, of course, you're going to want to give this model a different color and then start with some primer. So the first thing we're going to do is pull out the instruction set and all the parts for the model kit you're going to start with, and then choose which one of the customized versions that you want, and determine that so that you can put the other parts aside. So we're going to start here with the Super Roadster first. Now clean up any flash that you find or sink marks with some of your favorite filler, and then give the body a light sanding with at least a 600 grit paper, and rinse that off, and spray the inside and outside of the parts with a good quality primer. As I said, you can also hide any swirls that are in the plastic this way and change the color, and that's what I'm going to do. After we give this a nice color coat of gray primer, then we're going to do the same thing with a light sanding and let it rinse it and let it dry, and then I'm going to spray my kit with a color called Island Breeze Blue from Krylon. Now construction starts with the motor, and the body parts can continue to dry, and then take the 2 parts of the engine and transmission halves and glue those together with a slow setting glue to make sure that they match up properly. And I used an old-fashioned clothespin here as a clamp to make sure the parts stayed into position till they were dry. After the block halves had dried, I gathered up the rest of the engine parts and did a little detail painting there. As you can see, I used some Tamiya clear smoke, and I brushed it into the carburetors and the fin valve covers to make them a little less shiny. Then I used some Testors Black and painted the fan belts and set those aside to dry, and painted the engine Model Master Ford or GM and GM engine blue. And when that was dry, the oil filter was painted white, the starter on the other side of the block was black, and the transmission was silver. Then with the parts painted, allow those time to dry before full assembly. Now get the frame out of the kit there, and it's a nice chassis frame setup, but there's a lot of flash right around the radius arm location points, so you're going to need to trim those up where the pointers indicate here so that you can attach the pins to that. Pull these parts out of the kit now. We're going to spray these all flat black and then set those aside to dry. And also you'll notice there's a rag top there that although I'm not using it, I painted it in order to show you what it looked like on the finished build, so at the end of the review. Now we're going to work on the interior, so grab the interior bucket and the wheel there, and I painted the interior bucket with a light coat of white in order, because it's custom, to give it a little blue hue in the crevices. And so I just did one heavy coat there, and I was done with that, so I left it that way. And then I painted the carpeted area flat black. The gauge cluster and the center steering wheel spokes are silver, and then the dash for it is painted the same blue as the body. I painted the gauges white with some red needles and some black dots for detail, as well as the shift knob there. So then go ahead and install those pieces into the interior tub. With the motor parts all dry, I started to assemble the motor, and it seemed to be that the fan belt assembly didn't seem to fit the way the instructions showed them to be placed. So I rotated that slightly, and I put the fan pulley at the bottom and the crank pulley off to the side. So I turned that by moving the alternator then to the opposite side, and then the fan pulley at the top and the flat crank pulley at the bottom. It just seemed to fit better, and as long as the parts are in place, I guess that's all that counts. So that's the way I left it for a good fit. So here's the completed motor and the air filters there on top are painted with a gold tint just to break up some of the chrome and give it a little more distinction. So with these parts fully cured, gather up the front leaf springs, headlights, and the radius arms there, along with the rear differential. And we're going to start the assembly here by adding the drive shaft and differential to the engine, and then set that aside to dry. Now for a good glue joint here, make sure you scrape off any of the paint or chrome where any of the parts would touch on your glue contact points for a good bond, and then assemble the chassis and the drivetrain together and set that aside to dry. With the motor in position and dried in place, I felt it would be then better to do that first and then add the radius arms and the one-piece front axle, leaf spring, and headlight assembly into place. Scrape the chrome from any locating points, and you might want to consider using some super glue, and go ahead and put those pieces together. Now we can grab the wheel assemblies here with the hubs, and we're going to use the scraper to remove some of the chrome from the axle spindle there so that we can glue the wheels into place. So here you see the rolling chassis with the wheels and hubcaps in place. So grab those and put those on the wheel assemblies. And I also used a little of that Tamiya smoke tint to give the recessed areas a highlight to pick it out and make it look a little more realistic. Now grab the body and the interior tub assembly and glue that into place using some quick setting glue so that it stays in position. Now grab the appropriate decals out of the kit there and cut those out and apply those using some of that aftermarket setting solution that I mentioned, just to make sure that it sticks to the body and conforms to the contours. But once that's done, you can give that a clear spray to lock those decals into place, and then I would go ahead at this time and match the body, tub, and the chassis together. So you can glue that using some good strong glue to make sure it stays together. There's a small indent in the lower body that accepts the pin on the bottom of the fender so that you can glue the rear fenders into place, and it shouldn't be any problem as they are located with those pins. So I glued those in place by planning where the pin goes in and then adding a little tube glue along the edge where I aligned it to put the fender. So I wait for the tube glue to set up, and then I use some textured liquid cement along that joint to make sure that it stayed into position. Remember, you have to remove the paint before you do any of the application here. Now we're going to add some of the body pieces. Here's the windshield and the frame, and we're going to glue that into place using some of that Model Masters liquid cement because of the applicator. We just need a fine line along the bottom. And the the grill has a tint with that thinned flat black so that it picks out the details of the grill there. So go ahead and glue that windshield glass to the frame and then add that to the body and glue the grill into place, and you pretty much have a completed view of the car here at this point. So we'll set that aside and start working on the next kit. Now we'll add the few last pieces to the kit that I wanted to use, the chrome roll bar there in the back, and then add the chrome headers to the engine, and she's a completed model. There is the up top that we'll show you later, and you can see how that looks on the completed model too. Now we can get the parts out for the Lucky Bucket, which is the second model in this kit, and it kind of reminds you of the old hot rods that you used to see. And I like the box art picture, so I'll be pretty much using that color. So you can see the main body parts here, and I did the same process as I did with the other model. After cleaning it up and spraying it with some primer, I used a Krylon orange, and then after those were painted, I set those aside to dry. Now the motor part here shows the two halves assembled, and you can see the difference in the molded color and the actual Krylon that I used. It could be built like the Roadster without painting some of the major parts and just using the molded in color, but I thought this was a smoother and more nicer finish, so I painted it. So I added a little black wash tint here to the finned the chrome valve covers and to the valley covers there, and I did the same thing on the previous build. And the second build here, or the motor block here, shows that it's been painted red. It doesn't look as dark, but it's a red color. So go ahead and get these parts out for the motor, and you can see that some of the chrome pieces, like the belt on the fan belt assembly, were painted flat black, and the injector stacks there, the intakes were painted with clear yellow tint over the chrome for a gold effect, and the transmission painted silver. The oil filter is painted white, and the starter on the other side of the motor flat black. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble these pieces. They're pretty straightforward, assembled just like shown in the directions. So pull these parts out of the kit, and we'll paint the gauge cluster silver with some flat black gauges, and aircraft style steering wheel was just left chrome, but I painted the hand grips brown to represent wood grips. Then go ahead and assemble that into the body shell. Now get the tires out of the kit box, and notice that there are some bigs and littles here. For my version, I just used the larger ones, but we're going to spray these all flat black and get them ready for assembly, and then let them dry after they've been painted. I painted the seats a white color and set those aside to dry for later assembly. Quite a few of the chrome parts needed to have some black wash in them, so I used some of that Tamiya smoke to add that and pick out the details of the chrome pieces and set that aside to dry too. Now, taking a look, you can see the body turned sideways here. There's two positions in the front end where the axles are located. The toothpick actually indicates the furthest one back, but for my build I'll be using the rectangular location that's more forward. And of course then the rear one, toothpick indicates where that's going to be located for the axle position. So I painted the floor mats here black, which could represent just vinyl or even a carpeting, and of course the completed motor assemblies alongside here, and we're going to stage that for addition to the body. So go ahead and with that body flipped over, install the motor into place, and as you can see it's a rear engine unit, and so the exhaust pointing out the back end. So pull the tub and the seats out and go ahead and glue the seats and the tub into position on the rest of the body shell. So here's what that looks like once they're completed. And as you can see, I had accidentally placed some of the axle mounts in the rearmost position. So then I removed those and put them up front. And you can get those parts out now and glue the axle mounts into their proper locations. I decided to go ahead and add the decals to the body prior to assembly of the wheels because it just makes it a little easier. So you can go ahead and do that at this time if you want, and use some of that setting solution to make sure they nestle into the contours and stick well to the body. So we're going to at this time complete the build with the final parts for the version that you decided to use, and here's the parts that I have left over. So with the tires and the hubs, we'll install them, and then the chrome reverse wheels have had a wash with some of the black wash earlier, and the same with the radiator. We'll assemble that, add the radius arms, and finally add the glass to the windshield frame, and then install that into place. And when added to the finished body, this would be a nice looking roadster for your display shelf. So there it is. Here's your lucky bucket, and I had gone ahead and painted white walls onto the tires to resemble the box art because I like the good clean look of that roadster type, and so I wanted to make it look pretty close to that. So I did the best I could, although I think maybe the best idea here might be to buy some white wall appliques, or even replace the tires if you want to preserve that box art look. But overall, I think this is a darn good looking model kit, and especially since you get two complete kits to build here. As you can see, the detail on the kits is not super, but it's just enough to look really nice. These are enjoyable kits to build. They're easy. All that matters is how much detailing you want to place on them. But the fit was good, and there was just a little bit of cleanup for flash. There were no real color suggestions for the kit, but with something this simple, you can pretty much decide what you want to do, and it's always right. It does have a hard plastic tire, but once again, this is two kits for the price of one, so I guess you wouldn't expect it in here. I'd recommend this to any modeler of any age, really, and the decals are really not that hard, so I think that anybody could build this kit with basic knowledge of construction techniques, and if you can find one, and there should still be out there at the online hobby shops and in some of the larger local hobby shops. I'd go ahead and buy one, put them together with some customizing ideas, and you can have two cool looking 1/32 scale roadsters to place on your shelf, just like the good old days. If you don't have a shelf, you can use this pop-up display stand and place both roadsters on it to display proudly when you're finished. Well, we hope you liked this premium scale model kit review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can also find us on Facebook and always at our website www.rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!